Welcome to the Farm Family Harmony Podcast. I'm Elaine Fraze, Farm Family Coach, here with another episode full of transition tips, tactics, and sometimes hard truths to get harmony on your farm. And welcome to another episode of the Farm Family Harmony Podcast. And for those of you watching this on YouTube on my video channel, you can tell I'm wearing a scarf with X's and O's on you. And perspective is an interesting thing because some of you might be looking at this scarf and go, oh, nice scarf, Elaine. And others of you are looking at it and saying, wow, hugs and kisses all over Elaine's neck. Well, different things mean different things to different people. And behind me, I have a wonderful piece of mosaic art by my friend Sharon Stobie-Lepke, who's an amazing mosaic artist. And this one is called Branches with Snow. And if you get really close, you can see it's hundreds and hundreds of little tiny pieces of ceramic and porcelain put together to make a beautiful work of art. So today's podcast is about making a better work of art of the culture in your farm family in terms of how you embrace having a positive perspective and the ability to put yourself in the other person's shoes in farm transition. So this skill is very proactive because it's a place where you don't make assumptions. You learn to ask deeper questions to seek to understand the other person's perspective, their interests and concerns. And I was just fresh back from a family meeting yesterday, which is always a good reminder of what people are doing when they're making assumptions. And we did a conflict dynamic profile on each person in this farm family team and the non-farm heir and the spouse to figure out what their strong behaviors were in terms of being able to take another person's position or perspective. So for some young farmers who are waiting longer than they want to or longer than expected to get some equity on the farm business, it's important that you take some time to understand the other person's point of view. And recently in our membership site conversation on our Zoom coaching calls, one young farmer said, oh, Elaine, this has been so helpful because now I'm starting to understand how to ask my dad better questions because I'm trying to put myself in his shoes as an aging farmer. So imagine what the other person in your farm succession journey is trying to accomplish. Older farmers have heirs to the farm business and non-farm heirs to consider. They're also dealing with latent health issues, communication strains in the family dynamic, perhaps with other siblings, and also possibly some limiting beliefs. And recently it also came to bear that there's this history that the founders are carrying of, you know, Elaine, we sacrificed. My grandfather sacrificed. We used to sleep in the attic and our eyelids would freeze together. And so all of these hardships and grit and strain of what it took 40 years to build is still very much part of the story that founders are telling themselves. And what they're looking for from the next generation may be a sense of appreciation or gratitude. And it may also be the fact that you show and acknowledge all of the hard work, blood, sweat, and tears and challenges it took to get the farm business where it is today. So there's a lot going on, basically, when you start to unravel all the challenges. And I'd like to encourage you to go to farmfamilycoach.com, click on the Insights tab once you get to my website, and download the free stuff. And one of the pieces of free stuff is this key challenge audit, which I've been using for decades, actually, because it's a good point system for you to print off and check off what is keeping you stuck. So this will help you when you look at your mom and dad's sheet and you compare it to yours. You can say, oh my goodness, we've both checked off decreasing anxiety over the uncertainty of the future. Your parents have anxiety as well. And you certainly do because you're not getting equity fast enough in your mind. So why would you bother to seek to put yourself in the other person's point of view? Because you would bother because you help uncover the reasons why your folks are thinking in a certain direction. And then you'll have clues to increasing your knowledge and to your knowledge base and understand those key challenges and ask better questions. Another thing is to figure out what is their desire for income stream. So in this recent meeting I drew a line down the page, put farm assets on the left, personal wealth bubble on the right. And we talked about each family, the founders, the successors, what they expected for income stream, and also was really happy to discover there was a very healthy personal wealth bubble already developed, so that there was a couple of $1 million available for liquidity for the family to income stream from and not just depend solely on the farm. So do your parents need to purchase new housing? And what does fairness look like to all of you? And again, my definition of fairness is helping everyone in the family be successful. I got another question is, what is your father's desire for his new role as you take on more management? And perhaps you're farming with your mom. What's her responsibility and her new roles that she wants as she steps back without stepping away? And what roles are going to change for the other employees on the farm? And does your mom want to stop farming altogether? Does your dad want to work when he wants to work? Is there conflict between your parents as to what mom and dad want? Because when there's conflict between the vision of what mom wants and what dad wants, then you're really stuck, because they are not helping to get an alignment in their perspectives as well. So making the other person feel that you're taking their concerns seriously results in the other person feeling understood. I'm going to say that again. Making the other person feel that you are taking their concerns seriously results in the other person feeling understood. And we all have an innate desire and need to feel heard and to feel understood. And many times in our tagline, you'll hear us say, we're here as a farm family coaching team to help you find harmony through understanding. So this is when you start using perspective taking as a positive conflict behavior to find out the clarity of expectations and the certainty of timelines and transition agreements. And here's another helpful phrase in this process: by when. By when can you take some steps to be more open-minded and curious? And can you imagine how much weight is on your parents and the founders of wanting to do what they consider the right thing and wanting to be fair, and having also possibly a fear of failure or a feel of loss of wealth if they transition management to you and then their roles are shifting and they don't have as much say as to what is going on in your farm business. So share your why. When you're asking questions, say, Dad, why is it so hard for you to really tell us what you really want with the transfer of the land? And a helpful hint that we used in our family meeting the other day was we took all the legal descriptions of the land and their common names, like the Clark Quarter, North Watson's, North Farm, whatever you call it generically, or by the person who last owned it, of course. You take the land and you write it, the legal land description, down on a piece of an index card with the common name. And then you lay it on the table. And then the perspective that you have is that you're looking at the land base and you're negotiating or asking for, does anyone else want this land? This is why I would like it. And I'm going to pull this piece of paper over to my side. And what about our non-farming sister? What does she want? So she speaks up and she says that she has an interest in having a piece of land near the water, and also a piece of land that is possibly a place that her children could build on someday if they live in that community. So it is a really good thing. Just like I have this picture behind me as a decoration in my office. It's something nice for you to look at on the YouTube channel. But it's the perspective of attacking the issue and not attacking the person. And actually making it concrete helps you also put yourself in the other person's shoes. So Shelley Rose Charvet is a very dear friend, speaker friend of mine, who wrote the book Words That Change Mind. And she's considered one of the masters of the entire world in neuro-linguistic programming, which is an NLP, which is all around the power of words. And so she uses the differences between a blame frame and an outcome frame. So rather than calling thing a problem, you call it an objective. So you move from problems to objectives. You frame, what's our objective in this meeting? Our objective is to share our vision for the farm going forward. Our objective is to talk about the business plan because one brother is interested in being the cattle guy. The other sibling, the daughter, is an agronomist, so she's interested in being on the grain side. And they both have a desire to communicate better because they both have a synergistic relationship by sharing equipment and sharing the infrastructure. And possibly the founding father and mother have an umbrella company. You also want to shift from why to how, to seek understanding of how you're going to do the process. So once you've explained your why this is important to you, the next logical step would be to frame it as, so what are our next steps? How are we going to do this? And for many of you listening, you don't have a will. So this is how you're going to frame this, as a how. You're going to call a lawyer who's recommended to you by other friends who've found successful and compatible ag specialist lawyers. You're going to make the appointment. You and your spouse are going to talk about what you need. You're going to talk to your executor and ask them if they want to be permission. You're going to have an enduring power of attorney. Oh, and while you're at it, you're also going to fill out your healthcare directive. So now you're already into the how, because you're doing a lot of process things. And once you've met with the lawyer the first time, then you're going to come back for the second time to talk about the draft. And then the third time, you're going to actually have a signed legal document. The other thing is limiting beliefs, or things that are limiting you. You're going to change that framing from limits to possibility. What's the solution here, which is another really awesome positive conflict behavior. How can we create possibility? How can we create positive solutions? And how can we do this with positivity? So making no assumptions. And one of the solutions that we were talking about in our membership site recently was housing for an aging woman on a ranch. Could she live in a granny suite that's part of the main ranch house because the new manager needed more space, and she, as an aging single woman, would possibly be happy in a tiny house or in a granny suite that was attached to the main house. You also, in the outcome frame, want to move from failure to feedback. Failure is a lesson, but failure is not something to condemn you for the rest of your life. And we all make mistakes. But what if we got difficult feedback that was helpful for us to learn from our failures and learn from our mistakes? So this is an ongoing conversation to have continuous feedback. And you can ask for permission to do this. Would you like my opinion? Yes or no? And my husband does this quite often with our 35-year-old son. Do you want my opinion on how we should move forward on this? And he'll say, yes, Dad, I'd really appreciate your wisdom and experience. Or he may say, nope, I'm good. And then my husband respects that feedback. So the ongoing conversation is for the success of all, and you continually are evaluating what's working and what's not. You also don't want to have prejudice or judgment. You want to come from curiosity. So the outcome frame is moving from prejudice to curiosity. So let's ask deeper questions with genuine curiosity and no judgment. I'm just curious, Dad. What kind of hours do you want to work on the farm as you get into your 70s? I'm just curious, Mom. You seem really happy at home. Dad wants to travel. Are you okay with him traveling with his buddies or going by himself? So you come from a position of curiosity, not judgment. The other outcome frame that you're looking for is to move from no movement to movement, because we all know from physics that momentum begets more momentum. And that's why once a truck starts rolling, once you start getting in first gear, you can keep going and keep rolling. So let's just keep taking the next step, because action creates more action. So here's some helpful things I would like you to practice in your language as you're sharing your perspective. I've been thinking. It's not my intent to cause hurt or more frustration. I'm just wondering, how would you like to proceed in this transition journey? What's helpful for you to understand? What do you not know yet that you'd like to know? I'm curious, what do you think some limiting beliefs are that we're hanging on to? And one of the limiting beliefs that we attacked in the family meeting recently was the fact that, that brothers or siblings have to farm together because of the labor issue. And then we explored other labor issues like seasonal labor, trainees, or just having enough revenue and not having to grow anymore and being able to manage what you already have, or enlisting a spouse who's currently working off farm who will have time and availability in the future to do more work. So often, founders, you might be having some beliefs or some opinions or a perspective that is limiting to the next generation, and they need to know and explore that with you. Another helpful phrase is we can learn from our mistakes, so failure is not a bad thing. Can I give you some feedback, or would you appreciate some feedback on where I see that we might be stuck here? And you do it in a calm, respectful tone. And you do it with the intent is not to label or judge or cause harm to the other person, is to help create a solution and learn from the feedback. I'm just curious, Mom, excuse me, I'll take a drink of water. What are you having a hard time letting go of? And for a lot of moms, it's letting go of familiarity, letting go of stuff. And I think a couple of times this week, I've heard of housing issues where, Elaine, we walked in and it was just amazingly awful. Can we get a professional declutter person to come and downsize this house because things have to change? Another helpful phrase is, tell me more. So remember, your perspective taking skill has a lot to do with your mindset. So follow these tips again. Be curious as you are committed to the discovery and transition process. Come from curiosity. Recognize what role and impact you have on what is believed to be true and how people behave and how people make decisions on your farm, which is the culture, the glue that keeps your farm family together. Choose your responses carefully. And if you're feeling pushed and shoved and don't want to make a response, you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to need a little more time to think about this. I'll get back to you after supper. And you actually tell them when you'll return your response. And as you build your team of trusted advisors, seek out new supports or clarification with free discovery calls. If you don't like the team you have right now, or you're finding they're not responsive, or you're feeling that you're underserved, you can always ask for what you need by picking up the phone and booking a discovery call with them and telling them where the relationship is at and what you'd like to see changed. Or you can hire a new advisor and do discovery calls with them. I also want to encourage you from your perspective mindset to create an abundance mentality, that there is enough for everyone and that you will figure out cash flow and compensation and have a fair exchange of value for your advisors, for their great advice and for good process. And you are going to take the bull by the horns. You are going to be proactive, not reactive, because you feel like you're wanting to throw in the towel today. And for young farmers, I want you to know your numbers, have good financial transparency, and know what debt you can service and have a sense of that you're having fair compensation, and to know what you're spending on family living and what you have for disposable income. This is a journey. This transition process is not one event. There can be incidents along the way like health issues, deaths, dementia, other things that are causing the plan to change, but you need to have perseverance, you need to have patience, and you need to have positivity, and you need to keep outcome focus. What's the target here? What are we moving towards? And many families want to move towards more equity goals, and they want to move towards better communication, and they want to move towards better conflict resolution, which is exactly what we're talking today, the tool of putting yourself in the other person's perspective. Block time for this process, be the driver for your equity goals, and challenge your advisors and make sure that there's accountability for them to keep their timelines. And protect your working capital and have good debt so that you know that you're going to have the cash flow to exercise all of these transition goals that you have. You are responsible for making choices for your own life. So you need to accept that solving problems and creating solutions is up to you, and you are going to take responsibility for the level of skill that you have in your ability to share your ideas, your thoughts, and the feelings in the culture of your farm business. So you take charge and you act. You're not going to get anywhere if you continue to guess what the founders are wanting, if you continue to make assumptions. So don't expect communication problems to fix themselves over time. Oh, if we just let this go, it'll heal itself over time. Wrong answer. The more you let conflict go unresolved, the bigger the gap gets. And as the gap gets bigger, you have less energy and less creative design and resources for making that thing be resolved. So let's work on walking a mile in the shoes of others on our farm team. And this perspective shift can get you to the lawyer's office sooner than you believe possible. So I wish you a happy journey as you listen and share this podcast with your other farm team members and your non-farm siblings who are non-farm heirs. Putting yourself in the other person's shoes will really help you embrace the journey and help you get what you've always wanted and the life you've always wanted in your farm family. Trust me and trust this process. And if you want to do this assessment to find out more, just reach out to us at farmfamilycoach.com and go to our shop and look at the conflict dynamic profile. Happy to send you the guide, happy to send you a sample report, and happy to help you find new skill in finding harmony through understanding. I'm Elaine Fraze, Farm Family Coach, coming to you from my farm in southwestern Manitoba, Canada, on mile 16, where there's very little snow at the moment, and I'm wishing you a happy season of using a different outcome frame to get the life you've always wanted. See you next time.